Right, so your task this week is you're going to be working with your Dale Edwin Murray portraits. That's a bit of a tongue twister. The Dale Edwin Murray portraits, and we're going to be experimenting with some collage using a similar masking technique to what you were using uh, in your last task. But of course, it's something we're going to be using our portraits which we've created. And what you should have your finalized portrait which you're happy with, which is inspired by Dale Edwin Murray, and then your actual reference image, the image that you actually started to use to create that image. So I've got both of my images here, and I'm just going to drag both of these into Photoshop, like so. And you want them to both be in the same document. So I'm just going to drag this into here. I'm going to click Command T and hold Shift to drag. And what you're trying to do here is you're trying to get your layer 1 in a line with your background layer as much as you can. So a good way of doing that is coming over to your opacity and bringing it down just so you can see your alignment. And let's see if I can see. So I'm holding Shift, and I think that might do. Good way of doing this is looking at the pupils really. I think that's fine. Click Enter, and I'm going to toggle my visibility on layer 1. Don't need to see that right now. And I'm going to unlock my background layer, and I'm going to add a filter. So I'm going to come over to filter. I'm going to add a blur, a Gaussian blur. And I want my blur to be radius at about 10. Come back to my layer 1, toggle the visibility on, and bring the opacity back up to 100%. Okay, so next what I want to do is come over to my rectangular tool. Now, it's up to you which shape you want to use. You can use any of these 4, so you can use your rectangle, your rounded rectangle, your ellipse, or your polygon. It's up to you. You don't want to use your line or your custom shape tool. You want to use one of these 4. For now, I'm just going to pick my rectangle tool. And you want to make sure that up here, that path is selected. Make sure that it's not on shape or pixels, that it's on path. And also that this, where you see these little squares here, you want to click on that and make sure that it's selected on exclude overlapping shapes. You don't want it to be on combined shapes, which it probably is on at the moment. Make sure it's on exclude overlapping shapes. And I'm just going to simply draw a square anywhere on the face is fine. Come back over to this top panel where we was at earlier, and I'm going to click mask. Okay, and you can see what we're going to be doing here, working with kind of like a collage really, just getting you used to using your mask tool and experimenting with what we've done earlier. So I'm just going to start drawing some squares. Anywhere is fine. Well, it's up to you how you want to do this. This can be as complex or as simple as you want it to be, really. So maybe you want to do straight lines like this, straight rectangles like that, maybe. So yeah, play around with this. It's up, like I said, it's up to you how complex you want this to be. I've obviously just spent a few seconds on it, but I'm expecting you guys to spend longer. Just trying to play with some composition, but I like the way that looks. And just going to come over to, what am I going to do next? I'm going to add a new layer. Oh no, press the wrong button. Go back, add a new layer. And I'm going to hold Alt and come over to my, where this vector is, where I've created these rectangles. I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to drag that into layer 2, and then I'm going to add a stroke to these rectangles just to give it some more shape and give the rectangles a little border. So I'm going to hold Command and select layer 1, come over to Edit, Stroke, and want the width to be about 5 is fine, and you want your location to be inside, and you can choose which color you want. Be anything. These are going to be your borders for your for these rectangles. I'm going to just leave it as white for now. Click OK, and Command D. Okay, happy with that. And with my second layer, I'll do the same thing. So I'm going to hold Command, select, and I'm going to add stroke. Yep. Command D, just to see how that's turned out. And I'm going to select it again, so Command, select layer 2. I'm just going to come over to transform. I'm going to rotate it by 180 degrees and toggle my visibility back on layer 1, see what that looks like, see if I'm happy with that. Yep, there we go. Like I said, you can spend longer on this than I have. We can have as many layers as you want, and like I said, these do not have to be squares. You could use the polygon tool, which would look quite nice. Your ellipse and your rounded rectangle might not look too good, but you can prove me wrong. So I would choose either your rectangle tool or your polygon tool. And that's it really. Just you can spend some time on this, and realistically you can add some extra features which you think look great, look appropriate. And so for example, what you might want to do is like we did previously, where we added a grain. I'll always like to add a grain to my finished product sometimes. So I'm going to add a grain to this. You might not want to at the start, where as you can see, the background's blurred because I added a Gaussian blur. You might not want to add that. It might actually look better without, I'm not sure. But experiment with it and see what works best. So I'm just going to merge these. I'm select all my layers, control, and merge layers. Okay. Filter, noise, add noise. Let's see. Yeah, that's fine. I think 16%. Is fine. You might want to play around with the background as well, and you also might want to add. You see where I've got the squares are only coming over to the to the head of the portrait. you might actually want it to fit the entire art board, so that there's squares all up here as well. You don't really want it to. You don't really want to have too much, blank space, because I feel like there's too much blank space here. If I spent a little bit more time, I would bring the squares up here a little bit more. But that's it for now.